The daughter of a wealthy family fell in love with a delinquent boy in just one day, but that very night, the girl suddenly died from illness. Because of this, she turned into a ghost. She only wanted to see her lover one more time. The story begins with a boy named Ichiro. He was the most mischievous kid in the whole village. If someone's kitten or puppy went missing, the first person everyone suspected was always him. Ichiro wanted his family to buy a new color television, but the adults at home had no such plan, so he deliberately broke the old TV at home. His mother was furious and chased after him with a stick. Ichiro jumped on his bicycle to escape, but the next second, a speeding car crashed into him. Ichiro's soul flew out of his body and drifted into the sky. Luckily, Ichiro wasn't badly injured. He only ended up with 9 stitches in his head, but after that incident, he gained a mysterious ability. He could see ghosts. One time when he went to the toilet, a girl suddenly appeared right in front of him. Ichiro was so scared he fell straight into the latrine pit. But this ghost, whose name was Yuki, found him again that same night. She asked Ichiro to help her to fulfill the last wish she had when she was alive. But adult matters were things a child like Ichiro couldn't understand, and he was terrified of the ghost standing before him. Ichiro didn't even ask what she wanted, he just flat out refused. After that sleepless, frightful night, Ichiro didn't even have the energy to cause trouble like usual, but complaints still came knocking at his door first thing in the morning. The neighbor's grandmother had lost her only companion, her dog Aru. She believed only Ichiro could do something so cruel as to tease and hide a dog. But this time, Ichiro really wasn't the culprit. Still, he got another beating from his mother for no reason. Frustrated and angry, he swore to get back at Aru, but the moment he stepped outside, he saw the missing Aru standing by the road. Before he could even say anything, Aru tugged tightly on his clothes, leading him toward the roadside. Ichiro's friends caught up, only to realize something chilling. Aru had actually been hit by a car earlier, and was now lying there barely alive. The Aru that had just pulled Ichiro was nothing more than its spirit, waiting by the roadside for someone who could save it. Ichiro quickly rushed Aru to the pet hospital, but sadly, the doctor couldn't save Aru. Fortunately, though, the puppy inside her belly survived. While Ichiro was still grieving over Aru's death, the ghost named Yuki appeared once again. She begged Ichiro for his help, but Ichiro thought he couldn't do anything right. He couldn't even save Aru. Yet Yuki told him he had saved Aru's puppies, preserving a precious new life. Hearing her words of comfort, Ichiro finally lifted his head. Half doubting, he asked her what exactly she wanted him to do. Under Yuki's guidance, Ichiro arrived at the doorway of a house in town, looking for a man named Seiko. According to Yuki, he was the one she loved most. But when Ichiro saw the tattoos covering Seiko's body, he broke into a cold sweat. When Seiko heard Yuki's name, he flew into a rage. Because Yuki had already died a month ago, Seiko thought this boy must have been sent by Yuki's father to torment him. Even though Ichiro was trembling with fear, he still forced himself to finish speaking. Yuki only wanted the item her father had once smashed against Seiko, because only by burying it in the ground could she finally reincarnate. But Seiko had no idea what item he was talking about. It wasn't until Ichiro mentioned something that only he and Yuki knew that Seiko finally believed him. Seiko fell silent. Then he took Ichiro to the entrance of a hospital. This was the place where he had first met Yuki. Back then, he was just a worker repairing the hospital's outer walls, and Yuki was a patient in the intensive care unit. Born with a frail body, doctors had told her family from the start she wouldn't live past 10. Her family searched everywhere for doctors and kept her alive with machines. Yuki spent years in that cold hospital room. Her greatest dream was simply to walk outside freely. Even just once, she told Seiko she wanted to go to a festival. Seiko told her to focus on treatment, that they could go after she got better. But when Yuki told him her illness could never be cured, Seiko made a bold decision. He rode his scooter and took Yuki to the festival. The lively scene dazzled Yuki's eyes. It became the happiest day of her 17 years of life. Even a simple brooch made of bent wire looked to her like the most delicate piece of art. Seeing how much she liked it, Seiko spent 100 yen to buy it for her. Seiko worried about her health and wanted to take her back to the hospital, but Yuki said this was her happiest moment. Not long after, Yuki suddenly collapsed. That one outing worsened her condition dramatically. Not long after, she passed away. Her parents blamed Seiko entirely for her death. They beat him mercilessly. At that time, the brooch Yuki's father had thrown away was something Seiko had kept safe ever since. Ichiro conveyed Yuki's words to Seiko. Yuki thanked him because on that night, Seiko had given her the love of a lifetime. Seiko didn't know if what Ichiro said was true or not, but he still carefully buried the brooch under a tree, telling Yuki to reincarnate well, and to come back in her next life with a healthy body. In that moment, Yuki's figure appeared before them again. Ichiro had done a good deed, but when he went home, his mother beat him again, this time for coming back too late. Ever since Sayuri's son died in an accident, she had become like a different person, sitting absent-mindedly at the doorway every single day. So Shin's spirit came to find Ichiro for help, hoping he could ease his mother's grief. But Ichiro got distracted by a dragonfly flying in front of him, and while trying to catch it, he accidentally snapped a sunflower nearby. A man passing by punched him, warning him never to do something like that again. After saying that, he rode away on his bicycle. Angry, Ichiro deliberately pulled out another sunflower. As if to take revenge for the man's actions, Shin suddenly apologized to him. It turned out that man was his father, and the sunflower patch had been planted by Shin when he was still alive. Sayuri had poured all of her love for her late son into those flowers, which was why his father got so furious at Ichiro's behavior. His father had been doing everything he could to bring his wife back to normal. He always stayed with her, talking whenever he had time, but Sayuri, drowning in sorrow, shut herself off completely, showing no interest in anything in the outside world. Shin's father had even taken her to many doctors, but no doctor could cure a broken heart. The only one who could save Sayuri was Shin himself. But as a ghost, no matter how hard he tried, it was useless. His mother couldn't see him, nor could she hear his words. Shin had tried every method he could think of, but still couldn't make his mother realize his presence. So, through Yuki's introduction, he came to Ichiro, hoping Ichiro could help deliver his feelings to his mother. Maybe then Sayuri could finally recover, but Sayuri was in no state to listen to anyone. Ichiro felt he couldn't help either. Besides, he was tired of these troubles. After all, he was only 9 years old. Every day, he was haunted by the very ghosts he feared most. He was forced to help them fulfill their last wishes, and whenever he refused, the ghosts would threaten him with terrifying faces. So Ichiro no longer wanted anything to do with them. One day, Ichiro was watching cartoons on the street, but he just so happened to run into Shin's mother again. The neighbors around all thought she was pitiful. Everyone agreed that in her heart, Shin was truly irreplaceable. Seeing this, Ichiro couldn't help but feel a little sorry for her, so he decided to help Shin. At that moment, Sayuri was standing in the pouring rain, replanting the sunflowers that Ichiro had pulled out earlier. Her son worried she would catch a cold, but he didn't know what else he could do. Luckily, Ichiro arrived. He tried persuading her to go back inside, but Sayuri ignored him completely, still replanting sunflowers in the heavy rain. Clearly, gentle words would never reach her heart, so clever little Ichiro decided to take a risk. He pulled up all the sunflowers in front of her, trying to forcefully awaken her closed-off emotions. As Sayuri watched each sunflower her son had planted fall one after another, she finally reacted. Crying, she begged Ichiro to stop, and asked why he was doing something so cruel. Ichiro immediately told her her son wanted her to pick herself up again, and not go on living like this. But soon, Sayuri sank back into grief. That was when Shin thought of an idea. Whenever he felt anxious as a child, his mother would write words in his palm. Even after he died, she had written in his hand once more, so if she saw that gesture again, perhaps she might realize Shin was still there. Ichiro listened carefully. He immediately held out his hands, but Sayuri still showed no reaction. Seeing this, Shin chose to possess Ichiro's body as a medium, allowing his image to appear before his mother once more. Whenever Shin was scared, his mother would write the word treasure in his palm, meaning that he was her dearest child. Seeing her son appear before her eyes again, Sayuri's long-suppressed grief and longing finally burst forth. Mother and son embraced tightly. Shin told his mother, "Even though I'm dead, I've always been right here with you. If you can gather your strength and live on well, then I'll be able to be reborn as your child again, because being your child made me so happy. So please live on, please live strong. Everything will be okay." With Ichiro's help, this wish was finally fulfilled. Once his final regret was settled, Shin had to leave. Before he departed, he sincerely thanked Ichiro. When Shin's father returned home, he found the yard in complete disarray, but his beloved wife had finally returned to normal. One day, a ghost named Toshizo came to Ichiro for help. The reason was that he had too many love letters hidden at home, He was worried that if his wife found them, she would hunt him down in the afterlife to settle accounts. He wanted Ichiro to destroy the letters for him, but Ichiro had no interest in meddling in such matters. Toshizo grew anxious and told him that his wife, Ryuko, probably sensed she was nearing death, which was why she had begun tidying up her belongings, because she had started organizing the house. Toshizo feared she might stumble across his secret stash, and since Ryuko already had a fiery temper, if she read the contents of those letters, even as a ghost, Toshizo might be beaten to pieces. That was why he came rushing to Ichiro for help. But Ichiro thought differently. If Toshizo had done something wrong, then he ought to apologize to his wife honestly, instead of trying to cover it up. It was a child's simple logic, but it was also the most straightforward way to deal with mistakes. Still, Toshizo knew this was not a matter an apology could fix. Even though he kept trying to win pity, Ichiro refused to agree to his unreasonable request, so Toshizo had no choice but to transform into a terrifying face to scare Ichiro. For a boy afraid of ghosts, that trick worked well. Helpless and frightened, Ichiro finally gave in. The next day, Toshizo took Ichiro to his house. The tough-looking woman inside was Ryuko. Taking the letters right under her nose was nearly impossible, so the two of them had to secretly plan their move. Luckily, back when Toshizo was alive and fooling around outside, he had hidden a spare key in the hollow of a tree at the gate. Every day after sweeping the yard, Ryuko would head out. When she left, Ichiro boldly ran in, retrieved the spare key from the tree, and managed to open the door. Toshizo rushed him toward the storage room where the letters were kept, but Ichiro got distracted by the photos hanging on the wall. They were pictures of Toshizo when he was alive. Toshizo proudly told Ichiro how handsome he used to be, but Ichiro only thought he should put on some pants. So Ichiro found a pair of pants and delivered them to the underworld, so Toshizo wouldn't have to wander around like an exhibitionist anymore. Then the two of them searched through the storage room and eventually found a box filled with the love letters, but Ichiro accidentally dropped them all. While he scrambled to pick them up, Ryuko happened to return home. The little dog at the door barked loudly, raising the alarm. The sudden change terrified Ichiro. As he tried to run, Ryuko caught him, beaten and crying. Ichiro had no choice but to tell her everything. To his surprise, Ryuko easily believed he could see ghosts. After all, she knew Toshizo's character too well. Using a child to steal back love letters, that was exactly the kind of shameless thing her late husband would do. Ryuko had long suspected her time was short, so when Ichiro confirmed it with his words, she remained calm. Ever since Toshizo died, she had felt that life no longer held much meaning, but there was still one knot in her heart. She wanted to know if she had ever truly mattered to Toshizo. Ryuko said, in the beginning of their relationship, Toshizo would whisper sweet words to her, but after they got married, everything changed. Toshizo began fooling around with other women, spending most of the year away from home. He often made her wait at the train station, only to never show up even late into the night. Toshizo himself didn't understand why he behaved that way. In this world, Ryuko was clearly the person he loved the most, but after marriage, their feelings had gradually faded without him realizing it. Maybe it was the habit of being together every day. Not only was there no trace of sweetness left, he even stopped seeing Ryuko as a woman, so he sought out other women instead. Only now did he realize how shameful his actions had been. Toshizo asked Ichiro to pass these words on to Ryuko, but Ichiro only remembered the part where Toshizo said he couldn't see Ryuko as a woman anymore. Hearing that, Ryuko was furious. Toshizo grew desperate, but he couldn't communicate with Ryuko directly, so in order to calm her anger, he begged Ichiro to properly convey his true feelings. Toshizo said that the person he loved most in his entire life was Ryuko, and that he would be waiting for her on the other side. Hearing that, Ryuko was overjoyed. She herself felt her life was nearing its end, and that she would soon join him. Thanks to Ichiro's help, Ryuko finally resolved the knot in her heart. She now understood where she stood in her husband's heart. With no regrets left, she felt at peace. In fact, she had originally planned to simply throw away those boxes. If Ichiro hadn't retrieved the love letters, she would never have discovered them. Now, she could take her time reading every letter, and when she died and became a ghost, she would go find Toshizo to settle every old score and every new one, all at once.